session. So we're going to go into our Bhagavatam session today. So I'm going to read the verse. We're going to go through it together. And as always, I'm going to emphasize the point that devotees feel free to ask questions to kind of react. I'm going to make a quick, brief presentation, and then you can send me anonymous message, which I can read out without mentioning your name, and we can go through it like that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnu Pade Krishna Prishta Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Miti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. All right. So this is canto number 1, chapter number 2, and verse number 21. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samsaya kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare. Translation: thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive action is terminated when one sees the self as master. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Purport: attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously. As far as the identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned, there are a number of speculations and misgivings. The materialist does not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and empiric philosophers believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without individuality of the living beings. But the transcendentalists affirm that the soul and the supersoul are two different identities, qualitatively one but quantitatively different. There are many other theories, but all these different speculations are at once cleared off as soon as Krishna is realized in truth by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. As soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and the living beings is at once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. So we can go it's quite a lengthy purport. So interesting how Prabhupada straight away jumps into emphasizing the importance of individuality. I mean, if you look around yourself in the modern world today, many of people are actually knowingly or unknowingly Mayavadis or impersonalists. What does it mean? As we can see in the translation, the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. So here, Prabhupada is emphasizing the term misgiving or misgivings in general. The greatest misgiving a spiritual seeker can have is when he's actually sort of stealing the personal feature of the Lord from the Lord. When people in general try to worship God or worship someone, they don't really and then don't always sort of worship the Supreme Lord as a person, rather as some kind of all-pervading energy, as some kind of a manifestation, some kind of a spirit. But ultimately, we as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we always try to worship the Supreme Lord as a person. And I'll tell you a few reasons why it's good to actually develop relationship as a person. You see, one of the greatest sort of aspect of personal features of the Lord and developing relationship with that personal aspect is that sense of responsibility. You see, when you have like God Almighty only as sort of a all-pervading presence, sometimes may happen that that responsibility towards God somehow diminishes. But if you have a personal feature, you know that you have personal responsibility or personal relationship with Him. That you, for instance, you have to cook for the Lord, otherwise He will be hungry. You have to clean the temple, or you have to clean your temple room or your altar, because Krishna will be unsatisfied because he's supremely pure. You have to, for instance, change the clothes on the deities, because who likes to wear the same clothes all the time? You have to, for instance, give gifts or offering some gifts to the Supreme Lord, because, well, Krishna likes to receive gifts, and so on and so forth. The aspect of service becomes much more easier. And what it also invokes, it invokes opportunity to sort of constantly remember the Lord. I was just thinking the other day about magnitude of opportunities to serve Krishna. Like if you think about Jagannath Puri, for instance, Jagannath Puri is a city. It's a massive city with a lot of people living in that city. And one way or another, every single person is aware of Lord Jagannath, right? All of them, somehow or another, they somehow connected with the service of the Supreme Lord, of the Lord of the universe. And this is a very interesting thing. There, for instance, there are generations of families which have been creating clay pots. There are generations of people which are purely, utterly dedicated to offer the best quality rice to Lord Jagannath. There are families which are dedicated just to collect specific type of vegetables for Lord Jagannath. There are families which are dedicated to offer ghee, ghee lamps. There are families which are kind of dedicated to create specific aspect of the worship of Lord Jagannath. And somehow or another, family after family, district after district, it becomes a whole city, somehow or another, engaged in devotional service of Lord Jagannath. And this is very powerful. Lord Jagannath needs flowers. He needs, ghee. He has his own cows. He needs variety of vegetables. He needs variety of spices. He needs people which will create his cloth. There are personalities which, for generations, be making sure that, let's say, the temple is clean. Generations of families which are keeping the temple safe, and so on and so forth. And somehow, when you're adding all of these proponents, all these components together, what happens? Somehow you have a whole massive sort of town which is purely Jagannath conscious, and that's very interesting. And for those which are impersonalists, those which don't have this personal feature of the Lord on their mind, for them is very challenging to engage in devotional service, because how can you offer your love, dedication, and service to the air, to the sky, to everything, right? To the all-pervading energy. It's difficult. That's why it's impossible for Shunyavadis and those which are nirvishesha, that saying that Lord doesn't have any form, for them it's difficult to engage in devotional activities and ultimately to relish the rasa of devotion. So what this devotional activity is actually offering us is a taste. On the end of your activity, on the end when you finish your cooking and you're just like, phew, I spent 3 hours doing this feast, and then you offer it to the Lord, and you're taking it out and you look at those beautiful Gaudi Thai, and you're just like thinking, my goodness, you look really satisfied. Devotees here in the manor, they can tell that our Gaudi Thai, uh, so I'm dressing the lordships, and then you can find that they're changing actually, like the shape or the certain kurtas, they don't fit them anymore because they eat, right? They sometimes expand. And so this is all unique personal relationship that we may have with the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada is emphasizing this above all, that uniqueness of Krishna consciousness is on that very intimate, close rasa connection with the Lord. And that's why it's very important for us. And also when you have that connection, it's a responsibility in your sort of in your field. You have to be clean. You have to maintain certain standard of purity of consciousness. You have to read spiritual scriptures. You have to chant your rounds. You have to associate correctly and nicely with the Vaishnavas, with the devotees. Why? Because then you wish in the end of the day or somehow offer something to the Lord. And how can you approach with the Lord when, somehow it's not the purification aspect doesn't take place? Therefore, there's act of responsibility towards another person. How many times we've been behaving nice just because of someone else, right? Those of you who have the good fortune to be initiated by a spiritual master, there's a very beautiful pastime. I think I already mentioned it. I think this is about Giriraj Maharaj. And once when the whole Juhu temple sort of thing has been happening, I think, and I'm paraphrasing and just grabbing the story, they once they sent a prostitute to Giriraj Maharaj. He was young brahmachari back then, and all the thing he had was in his head. I mean, obviously he was a young man. This was a young, very attractive woman, but all the thing that Giriraj Maharaj had in his mind is like, how could I do something like this at the same time look in the eyes of my spiritual master? So what saved him? I'm not saying that he was weak, but what saved him was the personal contemplation upon his guru, upon his spiritual master. So it's something which really allows us to be strong. Personal relationship is something which allows us to be strong and pure. How many times we try to be a better person for, for those of you which are grihastas, for our offspring, how many times we want to be a better person for our children, for our parents, for those which are around us. So we thrive based on personal relationship. And that's what this verse or this specific section which Prabhupada is emphasizing personal feature of the Supreme Lord. Continuing with the purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.11, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Therefore, because of the personality of Godhead's taking charge of illuminating the heart of his devotee, certainly a devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness. He comes to know everything of the absolute and the relative truths. The devotee cannot remain in darkness. And because a devotee is enlightened by the personality of Godhead, his knowledge is certainly perfect. So I will stop here for a moment. There are some interesting points which are kind of mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, and that again, it's not about only us functioning or us offering devotional service to Krishna, but same time is that Krishna takes charge of illuminating the heart of the devotee. So more than anything, it's an act of reciprocation. The act of reciprocation for practicing devotees is very, very important, very, very crucial. It means that I offer something from my heart to the Lord and the Lord reciprocates. Sometimes we have conceptions of reciprocation. Like, for instance, I did this sort of service, therefore the reciprocation should come this path. But no, it doesn't work like that. Because Krishna resides in the heart of all the living entities, he knows what do we need and what sort of angle of life we need to work on, right? Sometimes we ask for purification, but let me ask you a question. How, let's say you're asking for humility, right? And maybe we can open it up at this point, right? You as a devotee practicing Vaishnavas are asking for humility, right? You want to be humble, you want to be meek, you want to be tolerant, you want to be patient, right? We should strive to kind of get these sort of qualities. So let me ask a question. How do you think these qualities will come? Any takes? How do you think the quality of humility will come into your life? What do you think?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna. By practicing them?
By practicing them.
Yeah.
Would you like to expand on that?
when you are in a situation, you need to know, say, if you're if you're being provoked, and you know you should not get angry, so you know that you have to be calm, so you practice not to lose your temper and try to be calm.
Okay, okay, that's good. Stay with me, please. Um, so would you say that if we ask for humility, that Krishna put us in a situation when we are forced to be humble? Would you say so?
Yes,
So if you ask for tolerance, would you say that Krishna, rather than giving us the characteristic, he put us in a situation where we can practice tolerance? Would you say that?
I think so. We have to learn.
So if we want to achieve something, would you say that Krishna allows us the situation to happen to us, right?
Yes,
So sometimes, thank you for that. Thank you for the conversation. So sometimes when we as devotees, when we pray for something, we actually don't know what we are asking for, right? Imagine we have some anger issues or anger difficulties, and we ask, "Oh Krishna, please allow me to be tolerant and patient and kind and forgiving." Well, Krishna doesn't give you the characteristics; he will give you the situation. So if you are not humble, then Krishna will put you in a situation where you have to be humble, and that is sometimes very painful. But this is the beauty of reciprocation. Krishna will not only put you in a situation where you have to develop humility, but he also gives you, as according to the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, he put you in a situation where you can actually also remember, when you can also have that knowledge, you can have that understanding of how the humility should be presented and how the humility can be enacted. As the saying goes, diamonds are made under pressure. So don't think that spiritual life is something easy. Don't think that spiritual life is something lovely, something constantly beautiful. No, no, that's not true. Get that concept straight away out of your head. Diamonds are made under pressure. Humility is achieved when you're forced to be humble. Sometimes, oh, there's a question, there's a point, yes? Devotees, any points? Okay, I'll continue.
Hare Krishna.
Oh yes, Hare Krishna.
I was thinking
Slowly.
the key thing the key thing is to detach yourself from material desires, and it will help you to grow and get what you're looking for in spiritual life.
Yeah, material desires there constantly. And even when you think you kind of overcome one material desire, another one even stronger may arise. It's like a layer after layer. It's like, because so many lifetimes we've been constantly desiring only material activities and material fruits. As we progress in Krishna consciousness, these layers slowly kind of start diminishing. And sometimes these material desires becomes more and more subtle, subtle and subtle and subtle. So it's not only about four regulated principles, but it's also about, hanker for, achievement, hankering for adoration, hankering for some kind of respect. And these are very, very subtle. We don't sometimes even know, but they're really, really subtle. And then but the Krishna consciousness is beautiful in the sense that no other process, at least in my sort of few years of experience, can offer you such a depth, depth and clarity of consciousness. So the Krishna consciousness not only shows you the problem, but allows you to fix it as well simultaneously. So continue reading. This is not the case for those who speculate on the absolute truth by dint of their own limited power of approach. Perfect knowledge is called parampara, or deductive knowledge coming down from the authority to submissive oral receiver who is bona fide by service and surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and know him also at the same time. He reserves the right of not being exposed to such challenging spirit of an insignificant spark of the whole, a spark subjected to the control of illusory energy. My gosh, what a powerful statement by Prabhupada. The devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from the personality of God to Brahma, and from Brahma to his sons and disciples in succession. This process is helped by the supersoul within such devotees. That that is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. That's so beautiful. And I would like to stop here and just speak about one very, very important point. I think maybe some of you already heard it before. I mentioned in a few classes, and I find it just so beautiful. Prabhupada once was interviewed by one gentleman, and this gentleman asked him a very interesting question. He said, "What do you think is the greatest scientific achievement which India offered to the world in general? What do you guys think? What is the greatest scientific achievement that India offered to this world?" Any takes?
Krishna consciousness.
Excuse me?
Krishna consciousness.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, good. Thank you. Anything else? What else do you think? Shakshi written Vedas. Okay, interesting. Vedas means knowledge, basically. That's everything. But any specific points? Anything else? What do you think? What did India offer to the world? The greatest scientific achievement?
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita. Okay, that's nice. Anything else?
Most invaluable spiritual gem that the conquerors never took, but Prabhupada came to give them free of charge
Bhagavad
so
Gita.
that they can get out of this material world which no one else has offered and will offer since then.
What is that?
This wonderful spiritual knowledge which awakens in the heart once they hear topics of the Lord and engage in some devotional service.
Nice. Yeah, thank you, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu. Very nice point. Prabhupada answered, he just said one term. He just said parampara. Prabhupada said it very interesting. He said, parampara is the greatest scientific achievement. And I was thinking about this thought for quite a while. And then it kind of clicked, or at least this is the way I kind of went about it. So the goal of material science is to study, observe, assimilate, decompose, and ultimately apply. And with that application of that knowledge, you should somehow strive for some kind of a happiness. So material science, theoretical, should be applied for the greater good, for the greater good of the society and the individual. So the goal of science is to a certain degree to make your life better, make your life easier, to satisfy you, at least on the sort of a mental platform, and give you some kind of a satisfaction. Correct? Correct. The goal of parampara is ultimately to finish all the material suffering that we have in this material world: birth, old age, disease, death. So the greatest science, the greatest conclusion of science is to mitigate, finish, and destroy suffering. And that's what parampara system offers. The guru teaches the disciple how to get out of this material world, how to contemplate upon Krishna, and how in the end of his life to transcend and go back to Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, the greatest scientific achievement that India sort of has and offered to the world is disciplic succession of guru and disciple. In other words, parampara. And that is amazing. I just find it so brilliant. And Prabhupada is just such a wonderful, speaker. And in one sort of pastime, he can just make so much clarity for all of us. Another point which is mentioned in this section is that oral receiver who is bona fide by service and surrender. So what Vedas are actually offering also is full-on discrimination package. Discrimination in this day and age is a big no-no word. It's a big boo-boo word. No one wants to discriminate. We are all equal. Everything is fine. But what the Vedas are offering is discrimination based on character, based on characteristics. So here Prabhupada is saying, bona fide spiritual master, by how and by which? By service and surrender. In this day and age, very sort of many groups are coming up with these fake prophets or fake sort of gurus or fake personalities which sort of look spiritual, but they're not. So what is the discrimination point for us to say who is bona fide and not bona fide? And Prabhupada makes it very clear, service and surrender. So these 2 points are very, very important for us as devotees and followers of bona fide lineage. Continuing reading from Prabhupada's purport. This is the last paragraph. This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankar, and it falsely obliges a living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore, all the clouds of doubt are at once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. In material existence, a living being creates his own chain of fruitive work and enjoys the good and the bad effects of those actions life after life. But as soon as he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from the chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction. Beautiful. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So one or last few points and then we can open it up for questions. This note is called Ahankar. So Ahankar is basically the false ego, the false identification. If you ask yourself, who am I? You may theoretically answer, I'm a soul, but you can observe your activities, or we can observe our activities. Based on those activities, we can we can say who we are, or those activities will tell it instead of us. And Prabhupada continues, and it falsely obliges living being to become identified with the matter. So I do book distribution, and one of the things which I do to people is it's a simple. It's very, and it just sometimes makes me laugh. I ask people, who are you? Simple question. Who are you? And then the answer, usually the answer is, well, my name is Jordan, my name is Oliver, my name is this, my name is that. They give 1,001 labels, they put them themselves. I was like, really? You know, but it's just a name which was given to you by your parents. Is that just who you are? Just a name? How many people in this world have the same name as you? Or for instance, I'm a mother. Oh, really? How long you been a mother? How long you going to be a mother? In one point, you may become a grandmother. Maybe one point, even grandmother. So you haven't been mother forever. So why you been before then? So you can see how people just have a tendency to put labels on themselves. And the answer is very simple. That's ahankar. That's the false identification. Yes, we can say I'm the soul, but as I said before, the activities, the actions speak much louder than words. So as followers of Krishna consciousness or Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we should sort of focus all of our attention to become Guru Das, or basically servant of a spiritual master. And that's good identification to have. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in one of his prayers, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Shudra, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm striving to be a servant of a servant of a servant of a servant of Gopis of Vrindavan. So that's the real identification. So in conclusion, this verse was identifying or sharing how to kind of cut the knot in heart, Hridaya Granthi, the knot within the heart, which is basically in other term Ahankar. And all these misgivings can be cut to pieces. And chain of fruitive action is terminated when one sees the self as the master. So that can be only done by associating with devotees, performing devotional activity, and correct contemplation, and proper preparation for our final sort of test that we cannot cheat on. That is in the time of death. So thank you for that. Thank you for your kind attention. I'm going to repeat again. If devotees wish to share any questions, any points, please do so now. If you have any personal questions which you'd like to send me in a personal message, please do so. I'll not read out your name. I will just read the question. And yeah, anything devotees would like to share?
Prabhuji, there is one question. Can I read it, please?
Yes, please.
Someone's asking, can you explain who is Sunyavadi and Nirvisesa?
Nirvishesha and Sunyavadi. Okay, let me just turn on Prabhupada's prana mantra. So basically, Prabhupada's prana mantra is saying Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So I'll read the translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. So Shunya and Nirvishesha means impersonal and voidic sort of concept of spirituality. It means that Krishna or God is just a manifestation of energy, and voidism is basically those which are, how do you say, non-believers, atheists. So Srila Prabhupada Prana Mantra, the two most prominent sort of activities that Prabhupada fights for, and that is fighting against impersonal concept and also against atheism, which states that there is no God. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
And there's one point in the commentaries from Saroj. Please clarify transcendental loving service to the Lord. Phew. That's if you read Bhagavatam, everything is there within Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is purely done about Amala, spotless Purana. So please clarify transcendental loving service to the Lord. Basically, if you want to please someone, you need to first understand what he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it, the nature of the demand. And to understand the nature of a demand, you need to have a right source of information and the right source of the medium. So the medium could be a spiritual master, and the source of information is the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So Krishna says, for instance, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakta Prayachati, right? Krishna says, I want leaf, fruits, water, flowers, excuse me. So we try to offer paraphernalia according to the desire of the Lord. And if we do that, that's a transcendental loving service, because we try to follow the instructions given by the Lord to please Him. Like, for instance, your someone will come to you and say, I want orange juice. It is actually anecdote or story pastime of the Prabhupada. Prabhupada said actually that I want water. I just want a cup of water. And devotees in their excitement brought Prabhupada orange juice, freshly squeezed, very beautiful, fresh oranges, first class. Prabhupada said, I didn't want orange juice, I wanted water. It was your concoction that you think I want something like that. No, I just wanted water, and that's how you could please me. And that's transcendental loving service to the spiritual master, not your mental concoction. So transcendental loving service means doing everything to the best abilities which are required from the side of the other person, right? Krishna says, this is what I want, try to offer it to me. And as you further and further progressing in Krishna consciousness, you become so much tuned in into the desires and needs of the Lord, then you by heart know what he wants. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other?
Hare Krishna.
Expand that a little bit with also Prahlad Maharaj's definition of the 9 processes of bhakti as well.
Yes, 9 processes of bhakti are very powerful. How it goes to verse?
Shravanam Kirtanam.
Yes, of course. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Atma Nivedanam. So yeah,
Sakyam, Sakyam,
Dasyam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So yeah, these
Pad
9.
sevan dasyare.
Atmanivedam.
Pad sevan dasyare.
Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So as Prabhu said, these 9 loving sort of angas of devotion, or parts of devotion, we should try to learn and practice them. Especially one which is not so often used is actually Vandanam. Believe it or not, like praying, remembering, thinking, meditating upon, contemplating. So Vandanam is something which Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was expert in. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had beautiful books about the process of remembering, thinking, and meditating and contemplating upon the Lord. So it's something which is very, very important in devotional life. Contemplation upon Krishna, thinking about him, discussing about his leelas, his pastimes, and individual, let's say, bhaktas, how they've been serving the Lord. This is all considered to be Mandanam. Yeah, I mean, for us, Shravanam Kirtanam is the most important. But trust me, if you practice Vandanam, it takes your devotional life to a completely another level. Thank you for that point, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I agree. This
Hare Krishna.
this passage is very very sweet passage. However, it's full of promises, because it says here, as soon as one engages himself in loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from the chain of karma. It's not as easy as that in reality, do you think?
Well, in that specific moment, there's no karma. In that moment of you being engaged in devotional activity, no karma is produced. If that time is 2 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever time it may be, it's just you for 10 minutes haven't produced any karma. Nothing. Nothing was produced out of that situation. Zero. Nothing good, nothing bad. It's pure transcendental sort of engagement. So, but the question is how often and for how long we can maintain
That's
that,
right. Yeah.
that concentration, that spiritual saturation. Right? Sometimes
So it's only in the moment you have to be fully engaged and fully, you have to be so submissive and have a guru to, to actually engage in a inquiring way, so that you are surrendered and you actually are following their teachings, because they have the knowledge and they have seen and lived the truth, haven't they? So so it's a long process. It's not like an overnight thing.
gosh, no.
That's what I mean.
It's something which takes work. It takes lifetimes. It's something which is so deep, just such a profound, mystical, spiritual, esoteric experiences which are hidden within the cult of bhakti is just unbelievable. And all the way I can know about it is just how the others lived through it. And even that just kind of scratches the surface of the actual experience. So, and also this term surrender, my gosh, it's something which we use so often, yet surrender doesn't mean like just one heroic jump and, you know, save the loved one, you know, just you jump in front of the bullet and the, you know, the main protagonist, he died and saved the loving one. No, surrender means doing all these small things when no one is watching, you know. All these small little baby steps are something which, that is surrender. Surrender is surrender on the moment, in the actual moment. When there's challenge in the mind that, oh my gosh, I don't want to read or I don't want to do this, but that is surrender. That's the opportunity for surrender. No, but I want to do it, or I should do it. So surrender is not one big heroic act of like, okay, today is, you know, 8th of April, I surrender. No, today is 8th of April, 47 minutes past 8, and I want to surrender. And again, it's 48 past 8, and I want to surrender. And it's 49 past 8, and I want to surrender again. So it's a constant lifestyle.
So it's not as simple as it sounds.
Gosh, no.
Thank you.
No, not at all. But thank you. I think we can wrap it up. It's actually getting quite late. But thank you for all your kind attention. And okay, there's this one question which is from Goethe, but it's quite about astrology. Okay, I'm going to go quickly, I guess, through it and just answer it and go to bed because I have to wake up super early tomorrow. Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you possibly comment on how astrological time periods affect us? For example, Saturn in horoscope for some time can influence the way a person thinks. Certain difficulties, does the effect devotee moja devotee. Okay, I understand the nature of the question. I'll answer very quickly. Astrology definitely influences us. We've been born with specific material body, in specific times, specific parents, circumstances, location, and so on. All of this is the result of karma. But for the person, to the level he's surrendered to Krishna, to that level, sort of planets can influence him. Like I can tell my spiritual master, he said that he's supposed to be dead. According to astrology, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, he's supposed to be way gone down 15 years ago, 20 years ago, he should be supposed to be dead. But he said to me, because I somehow or another tried to take shelter of Krishna, Krishna preserved my life. So even so, something called death, even if it's written in the stars, if you take up the devotional service, they have no influence over you. There are some kind of rings, right, with different like stones and gems, which can mitigate the negative nakshatras and the negative planets. I don't have much knowledge about it, but ultimately, if you surrender your life to Krishna, Krishna will take responsibility. But the big thing is if you surrender to Krishna. So to that degree, you surrender. To that degree, you're protected from Saturn and different planetary constellations. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you. Good night to everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yay.
Yay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Anantarang Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much.